The Zizians. Look, I am all for starting a pirate fleet off of San Francisco Bay, but you got to do it the right way. The Zizian cult took a wrong turn and they ended up in Vermont. It's a big mess. There is this online cult called the Zizians that seems to have metastasized and started attacking people in real life. So far, there are 6 deaths related to them. Their leader, LaSota, has just been arrested after about 18 months on the lam. Very interesting story. In this video, I'm going to tell you what I have been able to gather about the Zizians. Who are they? What do they believe? Also, I'm going to get you caught up on the timeline of events. Unfortunate events. None of these are fortunate events. I'm not going to surprise you halfway through with, and then they all ran a 5K for teamwork and charity. This is all horrible stuff, despite them claiming to be good people. The sources for this video are Ziza's blog, Sinceriously. It's from this internal wiki page compiled on Less Wrong. They're getting the facts together over there. From other posts on Less Wrong, from the AP, from the Daily Mail, and from this San Francisco Gate article. Is it San Francisco Gate or is it SF Gate? I'm going to say SF Gate because I'm reading it. Yes, I will do a full Rate My Cult on the Zizians just as soon as the dust settles, when the trial is over, and when we get more behind the scenes info on how they worked. The Zizians are followers of this person called Jack Amadeus LaSota, age 34, who used to run a blog called Sinceriously. Great title, by the way. Ziz is transgender, male to female, and you'll see them called many different pronouns in the news. You got he, they, she, all of the pronouns are in the news. Now, most of the followers are transgender or otherwise gender nonconforming. Posts on Sinceriously are generally about gender issues, social conformity, veganism, and rationality. My friend pointed out the irony of a vegan cult resorting to the murder of other people, but it makes sense. Look, Hitler was an animal rights advocate. Now, I suspect that it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from animals should have the same rights as people to it's acceptable to kill people. Ziz targeted computer and programming specialists in the San Francisco area. You'll see on their blog that a lot of the concepts are explained in computer terms. The concepts aren't necessarily so groundbreaking, but the computer terminology would certainly appeal to Ziz's audience, and that they might seem profound to them. You got to know your audience. Good on Ziz for that one. Anyway, Ziz had pretty unique thoughts on brain hemispheres, that there can be an evil hemisphere and a good one, and people have separate personalities. Also experimented with jailbreaking their brains, including during sleep. This apparently did not turn out well for one of the members, and they ended up unaliving themselves. This before, but the crime spree, by the way. LaSota started out in the Rationalist community around this website called Less Wrong. This is a website which seeks to clarify thinking through identifying and correcting logical fallacies. So seems good, right? They also use a lot more words than I just did. A lot more words, perhaps too many words. On Less Wrong, Rebecca Records claims that LaSota is a former member of the community, a former member of the Rationalist community. I don't know if Ziz formally left or this is the Rationalist community distancing themselves from LaSota and their actions, which is understandable. Certainly, we do see beliefs come out of other beliefs and then separate entirely. And we know that cults can come from basically any ideology, even rationalism. There is a community alert on Less Wrong that is at least 2 years old. And prior to that, even, members had warned about Ziz's brain hacking practices. These practices led to the death of another member of the Zizians, because they had experimented on jailbreaking themselves. This is their terminology, not mine. Jailbreaking themselves. This is completely unrelated to the crime spree, but it is definitely a big red flag. Brain hacking in general is a big red flag. Like, you want to be smarter? Why? For what? So you can be more frustrated with the world? Just stop it. Stop it. Eat your red dye number 40 and enjoy The Bachelor like everybody else. Stop with all this brain hacking. Anyway, Ziz moved to San Francisco for the tech industry in about 2016, and they had a hard time adjusting. They were fired from their first job, and they struggled to find another job and to find a stable living situation. They had a roommate at first, but that situation degenerated. The cops had to get involved. It was messy. Ziz says that it was through no fault of their own. This roommate was apparently, according to them, very violent, and the police became involved. Ziz moved onto a boat with her friend Gwen Danielson before getting their own boat. Now, Danielson, also very smart cat, studied sleep tech, among many other things. Ziz's initial goal was to start this rationalist fleet, a sort of communal living situation of boats in the San Francisco Bay. I really like this idea. And I'm seeing a real lack of follow through here, because if they had just done that instead of the alleged murders, they'd be a folk hero right now. Way to fumble. Way to fumble. In another universe, Ziz has a TED Talk, but here she's in handcuffs. So I'm sorry, they're in handcuffs. I think that's their pronouns. Anyway, I hope these murders don't actually ruin it for people who do want to start boat communes, because that actually doesn't sound like a bad idea. Does that sound like a really bad idea? You let me know in the comments. I just completely understand, because the San Francisco real estate is just insane. Trying to rent an apartment there is just nuts. You can't do it. It would be much cheaper to live at sea. So I'm with them on the boat commune. We kind of differ after that. Anyway, Sinceriously's post started with general self-improvement and understanding how the systems control our behavior, but they became increasingly more violent. We see this in this post called Punching Evil. And Ziz says that it's okay to punch Nazis because Nazis are just using free speech as a guise in which to build strength to attack. Nazis are not sincere, so there is no social contract with the Nazis. Okay, but the problem here is define Nazi. You got to define it. Ziz says that good people are at a disadvantage in this world. And of course, Ziz defines themselves as a good person. I don't think the families of the victims would define Ziz as a good person. Just going to throw that out there. It's an assumption. I don't know for a fact. Anyway, here's a timeline of events as far as I can gather. In 2016, LaSota moved to San Francisco and started this blog called Sinceriously, which became increasingly more radical. The last post that I can find is from 2019, and it's called The Matrix is a System. In 2019, LaSota and 3 accomplices, Alexander Somni-Letham, Emma Borhanian, and Gwen Danielson, were arrested for protesting the Center for Applied Rationality, CFAR, because, according to their attorney, Gerald Friedman, the group believed that members of CFAR were engaged in pedophilia. Now, the case was dismissed before they could bring their alleged evidence forward. They ended up filing a civil case against Sonoma County for mistreatment while in custody, but that was dismissed for various reasons. Now, in August 2022, Gwen Danielson supposedly committed suicide, supposedly unalived themselves, but there is no body. Now, look, I say supposedly because on August 19th, 2022, LaSota supposedly drowned. There was also no body. The family wanted a death certificate. They even ran an obit. But before they could obtain this death certificate, Ziz was arrested in a Philadelphia hotel room. So yes, that's right. Ziz tried to fake their own death, and they would have been successful if not for those pesky cops. This story gets more complicated. According to the Daily Mail, the witnesses appear to be Emma Borhanian and LaSota's own sister, Naomi. Now, was his sister deceived, or did she know it was fake? I like to see effort. I like to see schemes. This is entertaining so far. So far. Right now, this is where it loses its entertainment. In 2022, the Zizians were renting a space in a trailer park from this man called Curtis Lind. This was in Vallejo, California. Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, they stopped paying their rent because California had an eviction moratorium. You couldn't evict people during COVID-19. Now, Curtis Lind was their landlord, so he took them to court. Now, one of the Zizians threatened him with a knife, which prompted Lind to carry a pistol. Now, on November 22nd, 2022, Lind was called to repair a water leak. There, he was attacked by at least 3 people. He was stabbed through the chest and his eye. He lost his eye and was apparently blinded. He survived and was forced to kill Emma Borhanian in the attack. Borhanian was a former Google employee. So these are the kind of people we're dealing with here. Very bright people. 2 months later, on January 23rd, 2023, the bodies of Richard Zajko, age 72, and Rita Zajko, age 69, were found. They were shot to death. The police were sent to the house on a welfare check after the pair failed to appear to take care of their aging mother. Of course, there's something wrong. Now, their daughter is supposed to be a member of the Zizians. This is Michelle Zajko. She's a person of interest in their deaths. She will come up in other crimes, in later crimes. My question is, who is going to take care of this mother? It's not Michelle who's gallivanting around the country with her little cult. This poor woman has to be over 90 years old, and she had to live to see her daughter's death. I can't even imagine being that selfish. And in no universe is the person who did that a good person. Okay, cut to 2 years later, just this past January 2025. The Zizians come back to supposedly, allegedly finish the job against Curtis Lind. He was stabbed to death and his throat was slit on January 17th, 2025. This is an 80-plus-year-old man we're talking about here, and they butchered him. 3 days later, a Border Patrol agent named David Malland, age 44, he dies in a shootout with 2 Zizians. Also killed in that shootout is this German national called Ophelia Buchholz. If I butcher that, I'm sorry. Buchholz was a trans mathematics whiz. The Border Patrol agent stopped the car because Buchholz had an expired visa. And the visa expired because rather than going to her job, which she had the visa for, she decided to quit that job and join the Zizians. Teresa Youngblood, age 21, is wounded in this attack. Now, Youngblood has been charged with Malland's murder. Her fiance is charged with Lynn's murder. Now, Youngblood's parents had reported her missing in Washington State after she cut ties with them. That's cult tactic, cut ties with friends and family. Completely off everybody's radar at this point. Where does she turn up? The hospital. Oh, imagine paying for school for 18, 21 years, and this is what happens to your daughter. Anyway. Just this week, LaSota was arrested in Maryland with Daniel Blank and Michelle Zajko. This is the person who's a person of interest in her parents' deaths in 2023. Now, the San Francisco Gate calls them radical Bay Area pseudo-intellectuals. Like, ouch. That stings. Now, Ziz had successfully been on the run for over a year. She was first picked up in 2023 in relation to the Zajko killings. Ziz was given a $50,000 bail, but that was reduced to a $10,000 bond, which means they'd only owe it if they failed to appear in court. Guess what? They failed to appear in court. They just went missing. And that was June of 2023. Last week, a property owner noticed a box truck on his property. There were 3 people living inside it, and they asked him if they could just stay. They could just stay for a few months. And he immediately called the police because they looked so shady. All of the Zizians seem to have this shady look about them. They all seem to be really shady looking. Do you know why CEOs and people with home design shows can get away with just about anything? It's because they wear pastel and khakis. Buchholz and Youngblood showed up to their Vermont hotel room in tactical gear, and the hotel staff called Homeland Security because who are these people in tactical gear? Of course they did. So they were on the authorities' radar a week before the actual shootout. So where does that leave us right now? 2 of the Zizians are dead, Ophelia Buchholz and Emma Borhanian. Complete waste of life and potential. But both of them obviously died while trying to kill other people. At that point, they're like zombies. You know, you're not thinking, wow, I wonder if I can cure this zombie disease with this new mRNA tech while you're fighting zombies. And that is funny because on Ziz's blog, Sinceriously, there is a section about zombies. These are people who are possessed by an outdated ideology or outdated obligations. Like, girls, let's just sit down. Let's talk about this. Are you acting like a zombie right now? By your own definition, are you acting like a zombie right now? Didn't work out for them. Now, Teresa Youngblood, age 21, she's been charged with murder in the Vermont shootout, threw her life away. Her fiance, Maximilian Snyder, age 22, is charged with Lynn's murder, threw his life away. 2 other members of the group are charged with the attack on Lynn from 2022. Michelle Zajko, whose parents were murdered, has been charged with trespassing, obstruction, interfering with an arrest, and acquiring the gun that was used in the Malland killing in Vermont. Daniel Blank, who was arrested with them just this past week, has been charged with trespassing and obstruction. Ziz has been charged with trespassing, obstruction, and having a handgun in their vehicle. Now, will the authorities be able to charge anyone with the Zajko murders? A lot of this stuff happened across state lines, and now a trooper is dead. I wonder what the feds will be able to do in this situation. They can do a lot when they want to, so we'll see if they want to do something here. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, the Zizians had a lot of potential and they seem to have blown it. They seem to have been working in tech and they have expertise in AI. They could have done so much. But what did they do? They killed elderly people. They killed a Vermont Border Patrol agent. Like, calm down. That is Southern border energy. That's not Vermont. Vermont is like maple syrups and moose. They're not dealing with this. That's confused energy. They brought their confused energy to Vermont. Like, just take that away. Okay, Bernie had to speak on it even. To me, it seems like so much wasted potential. They really could have done a lot of major diabolical things, but instead they just threw it all away. They just threw it all away. Maybe they fried their brains experimenting with this hemisphere stuff. In a way, it is kind of good that evil destroys itself, but it did take down some innocent people here. And that's unfortunate. Really unfortunate. Now, in Teresa Youngblood's journal, she mentions taking LSD. LSD doesn't agree with a lot of people. And most people, I'd say maybe all people, should not be taking a lot of it. They really shouldn't. LSD can also fry your brain and separate you from reality. Manson was known for controlling his people through LSD. I don't know how extensive their usage was, or if it was just sort of this one-off thing that she put down in her journal. We will find out as the facts come out over the trial. Now look, going to prison does not necessarily stop a cult's growth. In fact, it could help it in some instances, but I don't see that happening here. The text in Sinceriously, it's really unapproachable, and the ideas are not necessarily original. Obviously, the Zizians aren't going for general audience here, so it's anyone's guess what the next step for the Zizians actually is. Will they be able to appeal to those few lost souls that would be willing to join their group in the state that it's in? They're going to get a lot less people without that pirate fleet off San Francisco Bay. I'm just going to say it. This is why I say that smart people are a special kind of dumb. They really are. Dumb people couldn't even fathom how dumb smart people are, especially in instances like this. You want to attract the crazies? You get a pirate fleet. You were already doing it. And then what happened? Ugh, I can't even go into it right now. If you want to know more about how self-help can go awry, definitely check out my Rate My Cult on NXIVM. NXIVM. That went south real fast. Thank you. Subscribe.